the more you see on social media now, the more you see that ADHD being a superpower, particularly for entrepreneurs.
I couldn't think of nothing better than someone coming in, using an initiative and just driving it forward.
I don't know if I can pay everyone.
Stop drinking. I don't want to be waking up with a hangover. It was a snowball and it got pretty shit, to be fair.
Yeah, adapt or die. Why do you bother?
I never want anything to revolve around me. I want to put a team of people around me that are much better than I am. So it's funny, it almost went full circle then. So it went from me consulting to a marketing agency, back then to us looking at this consulting strategy model. So when you look at it, you know, if you're a big business and you're looking at bringing someone in, you'll go to one of the big Deloitte, KPMG,
Yeah.
you know, PwC. But where do you go if you're a small business?
This is a massively underserved
Yeah.
part of the market.
So you'd either go to a marketing agency who will just tell you what you want to hear, almost fluff a load of numbers so it sounds like that, and then you're looking at your figures thinking, well, I'm not making any money. So that doesn't work. Or you bring a business consultant in who's great at the strategy piece but then can't do any of the delivery. So this was going back years now, a few years, and I thought, well, why don't we almost cover everything? Because if I met you now and you've got a business, I haven't got a clue what you need.
You've got to go in there first of all and
Go in
understand
and
it.
really look under the bonnet,
Yeah.
you know. So that's when we offered what we were talking about earlier, like a fractured C-suite. So CFO, CMO, CEO, whatever you need. So someone who's been there, understands how to grow a business, understands the finances, and then we will put someone in, can work along you, really is the sounding board. Because it's very, very cliche, but it is very lonely.
Yeah. This is a common thing with the guests on the show.
Yeah.
They talk about loneliness, particularly sole founders, even some co-founders.
Yeah.
They are appointing non-exec directors. They are looking to hire COOs, etc., but on a full-time basis. And this term, fractional C-suite, has come up quite a few times recently. So we're keen to understand actually, like, maybe what if someone's listening and they are one of those people who is lonely, you know, what is it that appointing a fractional CFO or a COO, etc., can really add to their value?
So what we've done is not taking anything away from, like, say, a business coach or something like that, but we've brought people in who have been extremely successful themselves. So not someone who's just gone into coaching, someone who's actually scaled a business, sold a business, you know, felt the actual pain and understands it. And then they come in then as almost, now, if you look at some of these, one of them, you know, let's just say on average, you're looking at 150, 180,000 salary. So you can't afford it.
Yeah.
It's too much of a risk. And you know as well as I do, you can bring people in, they can have the greatest CV in the world, but they're just not the right fit.
Can talk a good game in the interview as well.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone who says they're shite on a CV. Don't do they? You know what I mean? So, so for us, it's about almost, as an example, so you come to me and you said, look, I want some help growing a business. You and I'd sit down and then I'd almost try and pair you with the right people then.
Yeah.
Now, that wouldn't necessarily say, right, you're going to go with X constantly, because there'll be things in the business that you need at different times. So what we try and do is be quite fluid with it. So you might have a couple of sessions with someone, you might have another couple of sessions with me, and it is like you've hired a whole team. And then on the back of that, then you've also got the performance marketing side. So if you do need to scale, we've got the guys in there who can help you do that as well. So that's worked really well. And then what you do find, even with a lot of the big companies we mentioned previous, a lot of them are pensioned off early. So once they get to 50,
Yeah.
the pension's still young.
Yeah.
So approaching people like that, and then they could come in as well as part of it. So that's where we are.
Quite a key theme that you've spoken about so far is essentially hiring people around you to do your job or to go in and help other people. But when did you actually realise that? Because some people, I think, do struggle with delegation and they try to do everything themselves.
Not many successful people do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know anyone who's been really successful. You get a load of egomaniacs who think the world revolves around them, but they're not successful. They're being lucky. But as you know, we run podcasts and we do stuff through the director's box. So we get a lot of guest speakers on. And the people who have truly made it, and you look at them and they're very inspirational, they'll all say it's about the team. Always about, and even some of the Richard Bransons and all of this world, all say it's about the team. It's not them.
I think ultimately you want to make yourself redundant in the business. If you can find people that can do your job for you.
Most business owners are all over the place. And that's why they've got to that position. Most entrepreneurs, they're like, they'll jump from one thing to another. So you'll come in one day and it'll be, something else and something else. You need that person around you that's going to say, 80% of what you're saying is shite, but that 20% is really, really good. So we're going to use that. Otherwise, you just jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing because, you're always chasing the next big thing.
Yeah.
So you need to sort of tie that in.
Do you do that as well? Are you an entrepreneur naturally?
Yeah, I'm an absolute pain, yeah. Yeah. So I try and surround myself with people that you don't switch off. We've got a client who's a ADHD specialist, and he said that most business owners have got something, whether it's ADHD or. And I was, when we were taking him on, actually, we were just having a chat, and I didn't realise he was just asking me questions, like almost probing questions, and do you do this a lot and do you do that, and when you're on holiday do you tend to book your next holiday while you're there? And I was thinking, the hell does he know all this? Honestly, I thought, does he have to chat with someone first? And he said that's what it is, and he said that I think you've got ADHD, which when I think of ADHD, you think of like naughty kids running around the classroom.
You think of your kids, yeah.
Or bouncing off the walls, and I'm like, I'm not like that, I'm dead chilled. And he said it's not, it's like an overactive mind, not physically overactive. And I think that's what you find with a lot of business owners, they'll say they just don't switch off.
Is that, I've been talking about this with my girlfriend recently because I'm like that. That's how my brain is just constantly alive. And we were on holiday recently, and the whole time she sat there reading a book, and I was just business ideas and thinking about things, thinking about the podcast and strategy and who can I speak to. But do you think it's more... we're very quick to label things like ADHD as like disorders, but I battle with this and say, like, is it more common than we think?
I believe so. Yeah, according to our clients, he says it's very common, and I think it's like anything. In a way, it's a little bit like the horoscopes. I always say, like in the newspaper, where it's quite broad, and you're going to have bits. Anyone will read it and think, "Oh, that's me," sort of thing. So you're going to have bits, but for you're obviously very entrepreneurial because, given your line of work, doesn't lend itself to this, really, does it? It's very like, most people will be doing a job and focusing on just that, where you can see you're doing this, your mind's always going. So yeah, I'd say you are entrepreneurial as well. Whether you've got ADHD or not, I don't know, because I'm not qualified. But
yeah. But the more I see let's not take social media as sort of fact, but the more you see on social media now, the more you see that ADHD being a superpower, particularly for entrepreneurs.
We've got a couple of guys in the office actually who are from India, and And that's exactly the terminology they used. They said in India it's classed as a superpower.
Really?
Mm. Yeah, because if you think about it, it is, isn't it? You know, the ability to just constantly be 100 mile an hour. I mean, it's tiring when you're this side of it,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
I find it energizing too.
yeah. See, I'm very routine driven. So I'll get up. I'm not one of these, you know, preach, you've got to be up at after clock and go and stand on your head in a bucket for years or whatever. But I do. I'll wake up without an alarm between 4:15.
Do you?
Yeah, and I'll go in the gym, have a workout, but that's when all my ideas come.
Yeah.
And then that's a bit of a pain for everyone else then, because I'm like needing to speak to
You've
someone.
got emails
like,
of your team.
Yeah, so
6
people
o'clock in the
waking
morning.
up and they're just getting message after message after message, you know, and they must be thinking, for fuck's sake, you know what I mean? He's up. So yeah, so it's interesting really, but it's only very recently I've actually thought about it. I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Terry, who I've worked with, he's our like non-exec, one of the finance guys, very switched on guy, and he said to me, it's like, unless you're actively thinking about something else, you'll be thinking about work.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've got to force yourself to. I was talking to one of my colleagues earlier about when I go on holiday, it's like, you know, you're on the go all the time. It's like, yeah, unless you like force yourself, you know, you lock your phone away, but that takes a good week.
Yeah. It
takes a
to
good
get
week
into it, yeah.
before you can go, you know, because otherwise I'm like a ball of anxiety. You're just like, you know what I mean? I think you're so used to being 100 mile an hour to try and go to the other end. It takes too long to just calm down. So
Yeah,
I think
you can't just put your foot on the brake. You have to take your foot off the accelerator gradually and to get
Yeah.
there. And then by the time you do that, you're thinking about work again.
and that's the thing, isn't it? You go away, it takes you a week to calm down. You might have a couple of days, and then you think, right, I'm back at work soon, and you're off again.
Yeah.
So you wonder why you bother, don't you? Just stay here.
But that's an important question though, because like the podcast is called Ambitious Minds, but why do you bother?
Me kids, to be honest, mate. Yeah. I mean, I've always been very driven. But I think it was when I had my son. So I had kids quite late, really. I'm 46 now. So I've had Kobe when I was 40, and everything changed for me then. You know, I've always been wanting to do well, and it was more just about like nice holidays and stuff like that. But I think it was at that point I thought, I almost went like a bit caveman-like, sort of, right, I've got to build a future now. And everything now is about trying to build a future for the kids.
Is that when you started the business?
And I started 11 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 years ago. But I'd say, if I'm being brutally honest, I'd say I probably started taking it serious about 6 years ago.
Wow.
So it changed a lot. I stopped drinking. I wasn't like an alcoholic, you know, I wasn't like forced into it. But I remember literally went out, wet the baby's head, went and watched the football, and then the next day I thought, you know what? I need to start making sure I'm fresh of a morning. You know, I don't want to be waking up with a hangover. So I'll just have a couple of weeks off, but not say anything. And then I remember we went on holiday, and my missus said to me, have you stopped drinking? I'm sitting there drinking tea and the sweat pissing out of me, you know. And I said, yeah. And that was it. But I didn't make it a thing. You know, I didn't start posting saying, oh, you know, 1 month sober and all that. I just never. And it's been 6 years now, and I've not touched the drop since.
Really?
People go, oh, do you feel great? I'm like, I don't actually feel any different.
Yeah.
But I don't tend to have dips no more.
Yeah.
So what I used to have, I can't really explain it, to be honest, but once every 6 weeks, maybe, around that time, I'd almost feel like a crash, and I just want to lie on the sofa and watch Netflix and zone out, and I don't do that anymore.
Wow.
That, I'd say that is probably the biggest takeaway. And like this year's been by far the toughest year. By far the toughest year we've ever had.
In the business, this is.
And any one thing on its own would have been quite difficult to deal with. And, well, I don't know, let's say there was 8 to 10 all at once. And you're like, wow. And I actually sat there and thought, if I can get through this and get out the other side, I can do anything. Now, I don't think I could have done that if I drank.
Interesting. Are you still in that period now?
If we get to the end of this year, I think we're all right. I think if we'd have probably had this conversation last week, I reckon it would have been a different conversation.
Really?
Yeah, you probably need to give me a cuddle, to be honest. It was, yeah,
We can still give you one.
It was pretty, yeah, it was pretty shit, to be honest. But
Really?
then a couple of things have happened recently, which, you know, and you realise how good the people are around you. You know, the team all had the opportunity to move on, didn't. And then a couple of things have happened with people who I've met through work, clients and stuff like that, and you know, and that's changed a few things now, and I can actually see through it. But if I drank, I think the first thing you would have done is thought, oh, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a couple of beers, whatever, and then you'd be waking up tired the next day, hungover, a bit more, you know, not able to deal with it. Where I've almost had to just think, right, get up.
Yeah.
Get in the gym, even though I hated it. One thing, funny enough, that I did notice, so I said before, all my ideas happen of a morning. So I get up, bang, and I think, right, that stopped. So I would think for maybe 8 weeks, never happened at all. And that's when I knew it was bad.
Is that when you were in your sort of like your darkest period of this year?
Yeah.
What actually happened?
Oh, it's just a knock-on effect, I think. One thing happened with a client which led into something else, and it just went on and on and on and on. And it was tough. You know, we brought people into the business who we thought we were going to transform. Again, you know, I need support like anyone. I do this all on my own. You know, I haven't got like a number two. Excuse me. So we brought in what I thought was a number two, just didn't work out. And then, you know, some of his actions caused us to lose clients and blah, blah. Anyway, so it was a snowball, and it got pretty shit, to be fair. And then the hours we were working and not sleeping properly. I mean, I don't know how you'd actually, unless you're looking on social media, when you start getting targeted for burnout and all that. According to social media, you know, I had burnout because I was just done. But in my mind, I just thought, just keep going. Get yourself through to the end of this year. And if you can, everything will be all right.
Was this the hardest period since starting a business 11 years ago?
Hardest period in my life.
Really?
Oh, I mean, by far. By an absolute mile.
Because this is interesting, because you expect that as the business grows, has the ability to be able to handle these shocks. But then you're actually in a position where, compared to 11 years ago, you probably look at the size of the business now and you say, you know, if that was exactly where I wanted to be, but then you're finding that that's the busiest, the hardest period of your business career.
I mean, I can't speak for other people, but for me, and this was one of the things that the ADHD guy said to me, he said, where do you feel like you are in your journey? And I said, right at the start.
Really?
And he said, how, you know, on a scale, where are you, like, as in, like, how satisfied are you? I said, right at the start. I don't know whether that's me. I don't know whether that's, you know, where you're meant to be, but it's funny, really. And you look at other, there's certain timelines as with businesses. So most businesses fail in the first 3 years. And I can't remember the stats. I'm sure we can dig them out, and it can pop up somewhere now on on one of the videos, but it'll be something like 90% of businesses have failed in the first 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it is.
It's in the 80s, I think. Yeah,
Is
it's
it
high
80s?
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And you can see why. And the biggest things, obviously, cash flow.
yeah,
For so many reasons. Once your business starts doing well, and I don't know whether this is an ego thing or what, but you end up throwing more staff at it. So you end up with a big team. I must speak to 3 business owners a day, and it's always the same story. It doesn't matter who they are, what industry they are. It's always very, very similar. God, I was making well more money years ago when it was just I had a smaller team.
interesting. 'Cause now you've got more expenses going out.
You have more expenses because you think, oh, do you know what we need? We need a such and such a person. Well, if you look at it, probably your team might only be working at 50% capacity.
Yeah.
They'll all tell you they're dead busy,
Yeah.
and they run like they never are. So you have all that. So you'd always have cash flow, and also as well, what's really tough, especially if you started a business on your own. And let's not forget, when you start, you don't start with, right, I need a finance person, I need a marketeer. You get almost generalists in, don't you, that can come in and they can all muck in and do a bit. But then once your company gets to a certain size, you do need experts in these fields. So then you've got some people. So a lot of businesses I'll speak to, and they'll say, well, I've built relationships with these people, but they're no longer right for where I need to be to take the business to the next level. And that's really tough then, because what do you do?
Yeah.
So you end up moving them around into different roles, try and pacify them. Gary Vee said, he said the biggest advice I could give to anyone is get really good at sacking people. And it's tough, but he said that's true. And he said one of the reasons for that is down to ego. So you hire someone, and if they're not right, it's your ego that doesn't let them go.
Course. You made the decision.
You
to
made
hire
that
them.
decision.
Yeah.
So instead of just going, do you know what, you're not right, and cutting it there and then, you go, do you know what, I'll try you in this role. Or do you know where you'd be better actually? You'd be putting them there. So you end up creating roles for people that were never there before.
Yeah.
Then bringing someone in to do that job, and all of a sudden you're paying 2 salaries.
Yeah.
And that's where your cash goes then.
And also, what you need to go from A to B is not what you need to go not necessarily what you need to go from B to C.
No.
So as the business grows, the personnel probably needs to change.
Yeah, and that's tough.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't work with huge organisations. So I'd say our client base is probably, there's a few anomalies that are doing like 50, 60 million, but I'd say predominantly it's up to about 20 million. So once you get into the large corporates, then they've been going for a while and they've got really good structures. But they're the same problems that everyone faces. Staff and cash flow, I'll probably do to some extent.
How do you? So there's someone out there listening who says, you know what, I'm in that situation now. I have somebody that was with me from the start. They've been brilliant, but they're not who I need to go forward. Practically, like what could you do? I know that like firing them is an obvious way to do it, but
So
is it as easy as that?
no, well it depends. If it's your business, no, it's bloody impossible. And that's the beauty of bringing somebody else in. So if I'll be a really good CEO in not in anyone's business, but in a business, because there's no emotion. I haven't got that huge relationship with people, or I know the families and I know the kids and I know the dogs and I've come into your company and I can clearly see that person's not right for that position, so I can tell you where you're like, oh I know, but they're lovely and they this and that, and you're like, okay, and that's where you need to bring other people in.
Because they've got an objective view.
Exactly.
And then, so somebody comes, so when you said earlier on that you've got this, the fractional C-suite, let's say, and if somebody did come to you and say, would need some help, and at first they might need a COO, but then if they did get to the position where they said, actually, I need now a CEO or a CFO, etc., is it do they pay for the individual, or do they pay the business, and then they can just almost like a football team, like sub one person off and then sub
Exactly,
one person? Really?
Yeah. Because we, going back to the very start when we said how difficult it is to onboard and keep a client, you know, what you don't want to do, let's say, for instance, we just had CMOs, right? Or CFOs, let's say CFOs, right? We put them into the business and they tidy up all the finances and they make everything great. Once that's done, they're a bit like, what's done now?
Yeah.
You know, I can bring someone in, you know, at a lower level to keep everything going. I don't necessarily need this person. So you're doing yourself out of work. So again, with our model, what we're looking at doing is making sure, yeah, you might need them for a month or two. Then we'll drop this person in and then we'll advise you on this. And yeah.
And this sort of relationship also helps people to manage cash flows because it's not on a permanent basis. I'm sure it's a contract.
Yeah.
But every person that I sit in front of or listen to on a podcast who talks about the most difficult period of their career, of their business, was when they were looking at the cash in the bank account and they knew payday was coming up and they were saying, I don't know if I can pay everyone. And then they have to find a way. They have to go out and raise capital. They have to go to the bank. They have to go, and one guy said he went and literally like had to fly himself out to the US to basically shake the tree, which is go out to his existing investors or his existing clients and try to get them to recommit.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
That period when it's coming up to payday and you're actually sitting there and you're looking at the team thinking, I haven't got enough money to pay you. And they've all got families, they've all got mortgages. You're like, what am I going to do? And that's the really hard part of running a business. And I think a lot of the time that's what the team don't see, because, well, more often than not, you sort it out. Because if you don't, it probably doesn't happen again because half of them would leave, you know what I mean? So you do find a way, by hook or by crook, you find that way, whether it's personal credit cards or this or whatever it is, and you get them paid. And I think the reason you're in that role and the reason you're running a business is because you're probably overly optimistic. So it's always very, right, we'll get it sorted next month. We'll get it sorted next month. And they're the tales I hear of people all the time, you know. Like, again, referring back to Terry before, who's literally finance. He's like, well, I just wouldn't grow the business. He said, I'd just keep, you know, for me, it'd be about profit and it'd be about this and it'd be about that. And I think, but that's his game. So he'd never be able to scale the business because he wouldn't be going out chasing it and probably overcommitting.
Yeah.
But God, he wouldn't have the same issues as most businesses have, really.
What other issues do you see, common issues in businesses of this level that you're supporting?
So a lot of them will use the funds to fund something else. So that whole magpie thing, the next big thing, whatever. So they would be using the capital from that business to go, right, why do we, I've had a great idea. It's going to be that. So that's common. That, and as I say, the cash flow, definitely staff and training as well.
And with staff, it's very difficult because I'm guessing as you're scaling, you want to be hiring in preparation because you think that if I hire more people, we can grow faster, etc. Is it as easy as that?
It's probably the wrong way to do it. According to the finance guys, it's the wrong way to do it.
Okay.
That's always been my biggest issue. So I always go and get the people before the work.
Yeah.
So I think, oh, right, we need them because we're going to do this. And again, overly optimistic. And all of a sudden, you've got people who are probably working, as I said before, at 50% because the work's not there. Where it should be the other way around. So almost ends up putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you've got these big ideas, and then instead of testing it and making sure it works and making sure the work's there, you don't. You get the people in, and then
Yeah, it must be very difficult though, because I imagine every entrepreneur sits there and says, if I hire one more person, it frees me up or it frees somebody else up to do X. So all the time you're looking at how can you try to create much more time for yourself so that you can then go and explore those ideas. So it's it's a real balancing act that you have to play.
I think what it is, because you haven't got a crystal ball, have you?
Yeah.
And I'd never say that I've made, at the time, a bad hire, ever. Yet we've had a lot of times it hasn't worked out. But when you sit there and you do lean on people and you say, what do you think? And you'll have a chat and you'll do your interviews, you do due diligence and stuff like that. You think, yeah, this is wow, this is like, and then for one reason or another, it just doesn't work out. But if you're in that growth stage, so like what I'll see a lot is people will get to a point, they've got a bit comfortable, so they've got cash in the bank. I think right now's time for the next push. So they'll do that, but then if it doesn't work out, they're in a hole. And then, because what they don't take into account is they might say, let's say for argument's sake, they bring someone in on, I don't know, 50 grand salary. So they go, right, okay, well, all I need to do is bring in an extra 50 grand's worth of revenue.
Yeah.
And that'll cover the salary. But that's not the case. Because if you're only working to a 20% profit margin, then you need a lot more than 50 grand to just be covering that. You know what I mean? So you need a couple of 100 grand just to be washing its face. But they don't see it like that. So that's where they trip up. They'll think, 50 grand salary, okay, I need to make 50 grand. Oh, that person's paid for. Well, they're not. So that's when you end up in that situation and when you're digging yourself in a bit of a hole.
What do you think about, this is like the age-old question, but revenue versus profits. So I imagine that when you earlier on you said when you first start your business, you would take anything. You want to get revenue in the door. But there's a big difference between revenue and profit.
If you've got any sense, obviously you chase the profit. Not many people I speak to think it's all about the profit. It's all about turnover. Look at what they did last year. What are they going to do next year? And that's the thing. It's like, year on year, we want to grow by 20%. Okay, or 30%, whatever it is. But if your cost base is going even higher than that, you're making less money.
Yeah.
So that's not my world. I'm not from a finance background, so but I find most people will chase revenue and turnover than profit.
It ties into that entrepreneur's ego. The big numbers. I did X amount of recurring revenue, but we all know that doesn't pay necessarily your dividend. It doesn't pay the bills.
Funny, actually, I don't know why it just popped into my head. So we moved into our office 5 years ago, actually, was because the lease is up. And there was a company next door. And I was just being polite, sat down. We should have a coffee. And they do something, not the same as us, but would have been a little bit of crossover. And the first thing she asked me was, what's your turnover and how many staff have you got? And I found it weird. I was like, why? She went, I'm just asking. And then told me hers, as if that was a thing. And that's what people tend to do. What's your turnover now? Or how many staff have you got now? Why? So I've always loved the idea, mate, of almost like say like an Everest, like a mountain sort of thing, where the majority of it's underwater.
Yeah.
So I'd love people to look at us and go, oh, they're a nice little company with that, but they haven't got a clue what actually goes on underneath. I'd much rather that. I think that's me personally as well. I hate anyone knowing my business.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know why. I'm very, very open. I'm probably too open, but I don't like people prying and knowing my business. You know what I mean? It's hard to just keep it to myself.
There are definitely two types of people. Some people who shout about it, but they probably talk about the revenues. But then there are some people who, it's your business. You don't have to disclose how much money you make.
Mm. Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah. What so you've spoken about the challenges that you've faced, and we spoke beforehand about this has been a tough year in general with clients. What is it about this year that's been difficult? Is it is it a hangover from the pandemic with inflation?
Not sure. I think a lot of people I speak to have just been the same. And just can't wait to see the back of this year. I mean, I'm guessing obviously there's a lot of people out there that have done really well. But yeah, more often than not, people are saying just how tough it's been. I mean, a couple of our clients have gone into liquidation as well. And I found it really tough. A lot of people in a similar space to us, but more who focus just on digital marketing or web design. I mean, these are like established, good companies. Go and pop.
Really?
Mm.
After how long as well? This is outside of that first 3 years, I'm guessing too.
Yeah. Some of them where you go, bloody hell, I didn't ever think they'd go pop. Been going like 15 years or something like that. But I think a lot of that's down to, at some point, you just need to move into something else. And not be afraid to completely pivot into something.
Yeah, adapt or die.
Yeah. And if you don't, look what happens.
And that's even more prevalent now with the rate at which technology is changing as well.
Mm.
So it's a lot easier for these old established businesses to be disrupted.
Mm.
There are some great examples of Blockbuster or of Nokia, for example, who didn't invest or take the technological advancements seriously enough. And they went from being some of the biggest companies in the world, listed on the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, it's like Toys R Us was one as well.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
of course, yeah.
And that's the thing, and I think that's where then, if you are that set in your ways, then it's your own fault, isn't it?
What gets in the way there? Do you think is it the owner? Is it ego? Is it management?
I think it's all of that. And also as well, there's a lot of luck in business.
Yeah. This isn't spoken about enough.
There's a lot of luck. Right place, right time.
Yeah.
There's no, I couldn't sit here now and tell you how to grow a successful business because you just don't know. So I think sometimes they get found out. People think because they're good at doing a job, they're good at running a business.
Yeah.
So for argument's sake, they might be a really good personal trainer, so they'll open a gym. And it could be shite, you know what I mean? But and on the other side, you will get people who have been quite successful, but it has just been luck. And then when it's got tough, they haven't had the skill set.
Yeah.
And they're more often the ones that are driven by ego and think it's all about them. So they don't want to ask for help.
Interesting. So they haven't recognised the role that luck has played in getting them to where they are today. They think it's all based on them.
We had a client once who's we were talking, and he tries to do everything. Wasn't the smartest, to be fair, but he had a half decent business. And over the course of time, I said to him, "Why do you keep getting rid of these key people in these roles?" And he said, "Because they keep telling me what to do." And I went, "But that's the job." He went, "No, it's my business." I was like, "No, you're looking at someone thinking, wow, is he serious?"
Yeah.
And he was. He was like, "I'm not people telling me what to do in the business." And I'm like, "But that's what you brought them in for." Like, I couldn't think of nothing better than someone coming in, using an initiative and just driving it forward.
Yeah.
And me just checking in. I'd love that. But it's hard. And I'll tell you why it's hard, because a lot of the people who can do that, if they can, they probably go and run their own business.
Yeah. Interesting. Is there, thinking about like over the course of your life, is there one piece of like business or financial advice that has stuck with you?
Surround yourself with people who are better than you. Surround yourself with a really good numbers guy,
Right. Okay.
because most business owners I know aren't. So you need someone to manage the numbers. Probably, I'd say the best piece of advice I've had personally this year. So we run a company called, well, it's not a company, but part of what we offer is called the Director's Box. So something that we launched about 8 months ago, and that was after 20 years of networking, which is all very samey. I wanted to try and create something that a business owner would actually be interested in. So not going to somewhere where you've got to stand up and pitch every week or this, that and the other. So I wanted to try and create something that you could go, and it was a little bit different. So we put together this private members club. Sophie, who works with me, she's had a background in luxury retail. So it was like, right, okay, so we've got the concept. And the concept was, we bring a guest speaker in, someone who's been there, done it, that you would actually, as a business owner, you'd want to hear from. And then business pays for the membership, and then you get looked after. So take you out for some nice food, or an event that you can't necessarily walk in off the street. And then we put different businesses together. And that worked really well, to the point where, but then we thought it's missing something. So now, as part of the membership, you also get access to the C-suite. You get access to the performance marketing. We give you leads, which pretty much pay for the membership. And it was very northern based, so it was all in the northwest. But from January, that's getting rolled out. So London, Leeds, Manchester, Birmingham, Cardiff. So that was really good. But one of the guys that we had on was a guy called Dan Abrams, who was a leading sports psychologist. Fantastic fella. He actually got he was all booked in, and then about a week before he come, he posted on LinkedIn saying, "Thanks very much to Feyenoord for working with Arnie Slot for the last 2 years." And all that. I thought, thank God we got him before he ended up going to Liverpool, because it cost us a fortune. But after the talk, we had a chat like this, and we had an interview. And I asked him, and I said, my biggest problem is I get so invested in somebody else's business. I literally give everything like it's my own. And then if it doesn't go well, or if something happens, I take it really personally. It does affect me then. And I'm almost like, why? Why have you done that? Whether it's me or whether it's the team. And I think they've worked so hard for you. It's nothing to do with the fact that you've left and you've gone somewhere else. The money's not the issue. So I know how hard they've worked. And I was like, I said, I don't know how to deal with it. So I asked him the question. I said, how am I best dealing with this? Is there something I can do, like a coping mechanism, to try and get better at doing it? And he went, no, just live it. He said, you're human. You're going to feel like that. But give yourself a time period to go through it. And I said, what do you mean? He said, literally say, right, I'm going to give myself 24, 48 hours, whatever it is, to the minute. And then after that, that's it, then it's done. He said, so whether you want to feel like shit, you want to lie on the couch and watch Netflix, you want to weep into your lavender pillow, you do whatever you need to do, but then stop. And I thought, you know what? That's superb, that. Because then you don't feel guilty for feeling that bad.
Yeah.
You're almost just like, whatever.
This is part of the issue, though. It's the feeling guilty about the feeling bad, or you've been building a business over the last 11 years, but 6 of those have been with kids. So if you're taking your work on holiday with you, if you're taking your work home with you, do you feel guilty in those situations too?
Yeah, more so now. I think the kids are getting to an age where they'll start noticing. And they already say to my wife, Dad is never here and stuff like that. So that's a big thing that I need to work on. being present when I'm actually there. Because it's one thing being there, but then if you're not present at the time, they start to notice. And all kids want is your attention. You know what I mean? I keep getting reminded of that. You know, I'm thinking I want to make sure they go to a good school and I want to do this and nice holidays. They don't care less. Have you ever seen them programs where they do like the swap, where they go like
Yeah.
the posh family and they go and live in a
Yeah.
caravan and vice versa, and the kids have so much more fun in the caravans.
Yeah. The
You know what?
parents don't.
No, the parents don't. No, they think this is shite. But I mean, when I was a kid, all my best memories were there's a place in North Wales in Rill, the Robin Hood camp.
Yeah.
That's where we used to go to. I used to love it, you know. But I suppose what, as an adult, and what your perception is what the kids want is completely different to what they actually need. And you do need that reality check sometimes, because you're just like, no, I've got to do this, we've got to do that. I had a chat with someone the other day, actually, very good friend of mine. And he said, one of the saddest things I've heard for a while. And I said, what's that? And I thought he was going to tell me this big mad tale. He said, no, it's something that you said. That almost you're here, your job now is to just create a future for the kids, making sure that the house is paid off and they've got the school, and then you feel like your job's done. And I just thought, well, it is. He was like, it's not. And that's just the way I see it. I see it as a job. Everything I do is a job. It's got a means to it. So even when I have a weekend, I run my life like that. So I'll have a list of jobs that I need to do in the house. So I'll have my work jobs, and then I'll say, right, okay. So we moved into the new house about 18 months ago. I don't think I've ever sat down on the sofa and watched the TV. So I'll get home from work. By the time I get in, I might sit and throw the iPad on if the football's on or something like that, and I'll go to bed. But I can't remember actually sitting there, say like I have a weekend, putting the TV on and just chilling. Because there's always something to do.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah.
People ask me about films, TV shows. I'm like, I feel like out of the loop. I don't ever watch TV, don't watch films, don't watch Love Island and whatever else.
I don't watch TV. I'll throw a box set on.
Yeah.
Because I think I struggle sleeping, really. And if I don't, I'll lie there just thinking about work. What do I need to do? So I'll put something on almost as just
background noise.
Just drown the noise out,
Yeah.
Something that you don't have to concentrate on. And then I'll just watch that until I nod off.
Yeah. How many of them have you completed? So I put podcasts on now.
Do you?
Yeah. It's just like hearing somebody else's voice is not my own voice.
Yeah. No, I'll throw a series on Netflix, but then again, it's like I watch it back to back till it's finished.
You said though about you feel your job is building a future for your kids. But I think we're all becoming more aware now that how our experiences as kids has shaped us as adults.
Mm.
So do you feel that there is a balance between investing into the kids' future versus spending time with them today?
Probably the wrong person to ask about that. Yeah, most people would sit there and say, look, it's all about spending the time now. Creating memories. I can't stand that. What are they creating memories? Whatever. I don't know. I don't know whether that is a case of, I come from a really hard-working family. All the way through growing up, I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago. I can never remember my dad having a day off, even when he was ill. My mum worked full-time. There's 3 boys. There's like 5 years between all 3 of us. Must have been absolute hell. We grew up in a little council house, a mid-terrace council house, which was lovely. But I always remember one time, I think my auntie lived there with a boyfriend. It was only 3 bedrooms. And I don't know. I honestly, I can't say, oh, that shaped me into wanting to, because it's not. I had a good upbringing. We never wanted for nothing. We didn't go on exotic holidays or nothing, but, we got to pick out of a catalogue. You got to pick the present you wanted. You know what I mean? It might have been out of a catalogue, or or no, actually probably one that you have to pay off. But we always had the nice. These are probably laugh being Southerners, but we always had the nice tracksuits at the time, shell tracksuits. So we never really wanted for nothing. So it's hard to say, that because of what happened there. I haven't got a story like this happened in my childhood, and because of that, then it made me need to do this. I think it's just the way I am.
Yeah. But what motivates you then? What was? So you said earlier on that your family now motivates you, but that's been in the last 6 years. But what's motivated you?
Failure.
Really?
The fear of failure. Yeah. I think that's what gets me up every morning. Not knowing what's going to happen. It's almost like when you operate like I have, we've never had huge amounts of money in the bank where you can become complacent. You know what I mean? Because I'm always driving to the next thing. It's always like everything step by step by step by step. You look back from where we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it's unrecognisable, really, when you look back. But I've never been that comfortable. So every day I've got up and it's like, right, get to work. I think I've always had that work ethic where it's just been, right, get in, do your job, aim sort of for the next thing. And that failure of not having enough money to pay the bills, pay the team, I'd say that's probably my biggest motivator.
What about when you were in your career before you started the business? Was it similar then?
Hated IT anyway. I didn't want to do it. Paid all right. And then when I worked in the lab, that was almost like, it was more of a free reign of a role. So it was like you were almost trying to run that business alongside
the
MD. But no, I think, as I say, I've always had that drive, but more so now, I'd say.
Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
No.
Run your own business?
Still don't know what I want to do. I'm 46 years of age. I don't know what I want to do.
What's your passion?
I love building things. I'm very good at problem solving. And I find that quite easy. If I'm sitting in a room full of people, or if I'm sitting with a business owner, I find it quite easy to identify what the problem is. I think for me, the analogy someone said to me once, I love building a car, not necessarily driving it.
Yeah.
I need a really good number two now. I need someone to work alongside me like I could work alongside somebody else. Give me one thing I'd say, if I could go back, is I'd probably invest in a really good number two earlier, because I think that's what stifled the growth of our company a little bit. And that's down to me, nobody else. Because what tends to happen, for me, what tends to happen is you go out, you onboard a client, that buy-in of the client is with you, but then there's only so many clients you can take on. And when you're almost that invested in someone's business and they're calling it all the time, whether it's inside of our working hours, outside, weekends, whatever, it's sort of capped at a level when it shouldn't be like that. Really, I could have done with someone coming in years ago saying that's not a good business model. That you need to have other people in and around you to, if you go out and onboard the clients, then that gets handed on to somebody else. So what we're doing now with the Fractional C-suite, that enables me to just introduce them to the clients and they can deal with that and then I can move on. So that's probably the biggest learning over the...
And is that, so where the business has ended up, which is the Fractional C-suite, does that come out of a personal experience, which was, I wish I had this when I started myself? Probably,
yeah. Without thinking about it. Yeah, it will do. Yeah, but in hindsight, it would be great
Yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
But that's the thing, and that's the power of doing the podcast, for example, is that you can reach a bigger audience to be able to show what you can do, and that provide them with, you've had to learn the hard way, but you're essentially providing hindsight to people that are listening.
Exactly, and that's the idea. What the people that we're putting into other people's businesses have done all this before.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're pressing a fast forward button.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like what we can teach you in 12 months is
It'll
going
take
to
you years
save you
to learn it.
5 or 6 or 7 years. It's took me 11 years, really,
Yeah.
hasn't it? I do think that sometimes if I could go back in time and know then what I know now, how different would it be?
But have you enjoyed the journey?
Fuck no. It's been so hard. Do you know what? I don't mind it. It's been tough. I've really enjoyed it up until this year.
Right.
But everything happened for a reason. And if this year hadn't happened, we'd have continued to do what we've always done. And that's where I thought, enough's enough. We have to change. So we just need to stick together, get to the end of this year, and everything will change for us. Whereas if it hadn't, I could have done another 10 years
Interesting.
of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You'd only really learn through adversity, don't you? I think people worrying about failing or doing things wrong. It's like, well,
How else you learn?
how else do you learn, yeah? So,
What's next for the business? You're a man with lots of ideas, clearly.
going national, the director's box.
Yeah.
And I think for that, it gives people the opportunity then not to just have consultancy or this or that. We've ticked a lot of boxes. And yeah, rolling that out. So that's what's next. And introducing business owners to some of these amazing guest speakers that we've had.
Yeah. Yeah. I look forward to that. If you're in London, I'll come along. I'd love to actually to be at one of the events to listen to some of these people speak.
Yeah, so I think February is going to be the London event, so
Okay.
I'll let you know the venue.
Yeah.
Might be good to have you there.
Where can people find you? Social media is where I found you, so LinkedIn.
Yeah. Don't know, I block myself from everything. Can't stand it, hate it.
Do you?
Oh, God,
But
I cannot. I do it because...
Is you behind it?
Yeah, but when I see myself, or, if someone in the office might be flicking through Instagram or something and I hear my voice, I think, can't stand it, but... Because I obviously do it because I love interviewing people.
Yeah.
But then you'll hear the clip where it's me talking and I cringe. I just think, oh God, why am I on this? Or people will stop and say, oh, I've seen you on Instagram. I think,
But it's really? So people around Liverpool are stopping.
yeah, I'm not like talking like
Not
a
famous,
celeb.
not a footballer.
No, not at all. Maybe one of the school dads or something. Say, I've seen you on Instagram. Yeah. I'd say mums then, but my missus would get a comment. But yeah, so. But yeah, so Instagram, obviously the website of Profici.
Yeah.
Or LinkedIn.
But it's working, by the way, because I came across your content on LinkedIn and I thought it was brilliant. So
I found it really odd, when you reached out, especially when you said you want to speak to young entrepreneurs. I thought, God, my profile picture must need changing. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was mad because I was thinking, why the hell would you want to speak to me? But yeah, I'm so glad it did. To be honest, it's different.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation. I appreciate you doing.
It's been funny actually because guests will come on and they say, "What are you going to ask me?" And I'll be like, "I don't know. We'll just have a chat." And I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, what's he going to ask?
Yeah.
Have I even got a story to tell? Sort of thing. So yeah, no, it's been good. Thank you.
No, it's been. I've really enjoyed this, and to be honest with you, we booked this in last minute, so I wasn't even really prepared with many questions. But it's been an easy flowing conversation, which I really appreciate you for, because you made my life easy, quite frankly.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank
Cheers.
you.
Well, thank you very much.